Eli's heart pounded so hard he thought it might break his ribs. The roar of the crowd swallowed his ragged breaths as he stood in the middle of the city street, rainbow flag clutched in trembling hands. At 17, he never imagined his first pride parade would end with police lights flashing and his mother's voice sharp, unyielding, cutting through the chaos, screaming his name. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Eli had slipped out of their small suburban home in upstate New York that morning, his backpack stuffed with a water bottle, a granola bar, and a secret he'd guarded for years. He'd told his mom, Sarah, he was going to the library. The lie tasted bitter, but the truth was worse. Sarah, with her Bible on the kitchen counter and her rigid Sunday sermons, had made it clear being gay was a sin, a choice, a betrayal of everything she'd raised him to be. Eli had heard her rants too many times, her voice dripping with disgust as she spoke of those people ruining America. So he kept his secret locked tight, even as it clawed at his chest. But today was different. Today, Eli had boarded a bus to Albany, heart racing with equal parts fear and exhilaration. The Pride Parade was a kaleidoscope of color and sound, rainbow flags waving, music pulsing, people laughing and embracing without shame. For the first time, Eli felt like he could breathe. He met Jamie, a lanky 18-year-old with a quick smile and a septum piercing, who handed him a flag and said, "You look like you belong here." Eli's cheeks burned, not from embarrassment, but from something new, something like hope. They danced together in the street, Jamie's hand brushing his, and for a fleeting moment, Eli felt whole. Then the sirens came. The crowd's joy fractured as police in riot gear pushed forward, barking orders to disperse. A protest had erupted nearby, something about a new anti-LGBTQ bill, and tensions boiled over. Eli froze, clutching the flag, as bottles flew and voices rose in anger. He didn't see the officer charging toward him until it was too late. The man's baton was raised, his face a mask of authority, and Eli braced for impact. Eli. The scream tore through the air, raw and desperate. Sarah. His mother. How was she here? Her face was pale, her dark hair escaping its tight bun as she shoved through the crowd. Eli's stomach dropped. Had she followed him? Was this her final judgment, dragging him home to shame him? But Sarah didn't grab him. She didn't yell. Instead, she planted herself between Eli and the officer, her small frame trembling but unyielding. "Don't you touch my son," she said, her voice low and fierce, tears streaming down her face. The officer hesitated, baton still raised, and the world seemed to hold its breath. 3 months earlier, Eli's life was a tightrope. He was a junior at Lincoln High, a quiet kid who kept his head down and his grades up. His mom was his worlder, at least. She had been. Sarah was a single mother, 45, with sharp cheekbones and sharper convictions. She worked long hours at the local hardware store, her hands calloused from stocking shelves, her faith unshakable. Every Sunday, she dragged Eli to church, where Pastor John's sermons about traditional values made Eli's skin crawl. He'd sit in the pew, staring at the stained glass windows, wondering if God hated him as much as his mother seemed to. At home, things weren't much better. Sarah's rules were ironclad: no phones at dinner, no secular music, no questioning her beliefs. Eli had learned early to nod and agree, to hide the parts of himself that didn't fit her mold. But the older he got, the harder it was to stay silent. He'd lie awake at night, scrolling through X on his phone under the covers, reading stories of kids like him, gay, scared, but finding courage in communities online. He followed accounts like at Pride Youth NY and at Queer Voices, their posts a lifeline in the dark. They spoke of love, of acceptance, of fighting back. Eli wanted that. He craved it. One night, he made a mistake. He left his phone on the kitchen table. A tab opened to a thread about coming out. Sarah found it. The fight that followed was a storm. "This is not who you are, Elijah," she'd shouted, her voice cracking with anger and fear. "You're confused. You need to pray to fix this." Eli stood there, silent, his fists clenched, feeling like a stranger in his own home. He didn't argue. He couldn't. Instead, he retreated to his room, locked the door, and cried until his throat ached. But something shifted that night. The shame that had weighed him down for years began to crack, replaced by a quiet, burning resolve. He wasn't confused. He wasn't broken. He was just Eli, and he was done hiding. The Pride Parade in Albany was his Chauncea rebellion, a declaration. He didn't expect it to change anything at home. He didn't expect Sarah to show up. Back in the street, the air was thick with tension. Sarah's hands gripped Eli's shoulders. Her eyes locked on the officers. "He's just a kid," she said, her voice softer now, almost pleading. The officer lowered his baton, glancing at his colleagues, unsure. Around them, the crowd surged, some shouting, others filming on their phones. Eli's flag lay trampled on the ground, but he didn't care. All he could see was his mother, his fiercely homophobic mother, standing like a shield in front of him. "Mom," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Why are you here?" Sarah turned to him, her face a mess of tears and determination. "I followed you," she admitted, her voice shaking. "I was angry. I thought I could stop you. But then I saw you, really saw you, and I..." She choked on a sob. "I couldn't let them hurt you." Eli's heart twisted. This wasn't the Sarah he knew, the one who'd called his identity a sin. This was someone new, someone breaking. He wanted to ask more, to understand, but the chaos around them didn't give him the chance. Jamie appeared at his side, breathless, his piercing glinting in the fading light. "Eli, we gotta move," he said, grabbing his hand. "It's getting bad." Sarah's eyes flicked to Jamie, then to their joined hands. For a moment, Eli braced for her old disgust to surface. But she just nodded, her lips tight. "Go," she said. "Both of you. Stay safe." Eli hesitated, torn between the mother he'd feared and the one standing before him now. Then he ran, Jamie's hand in his, the sound of sirens fading behind them. But Sarah's tear-streaked face stayed with him, a question he couldn't yet answer. They ducked into a narrow alley, the noise of the protest muffled by brick walls. Eli's chest heaved, his mind a whirlwind. Jamie leaned against the wall, catching his breath, his dark eyes scanning Eli's face. "You okay?" he asked, his voice gentle but urgent. Eli nodded, though he wasn't sure. His mother's face, fierce, protective, tearful, kept flashing in his mind. She stood up for me," he said, almost to himself. "My mom. She's not supposed to do that." Jamie raised an eyebrow, his piercing catching the dim light. "Sounds like there's a story there." Eli laughed, a shaky sound. "You have no idea." He sank to the ground, the flag still clutched in his hand, now torn at the edges. Jamie sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders brushed. The contact grounded Eli, tethering him to the moment. He told Jamie everything: the suffocating rules at home, the church sermons, the fight over his phone. Jamie listened, his face unreadable but his presence steady. "My dad was like that," Jamie said when Eli finished. "Kicked me out at 16. Said I was a disgrace. I haven't seen him since." He shrugged, but the tightness in his jaw betrayed the hurt. Found my own family at Pride events. People who get it. Eli envied that. He'd spent so long hiding. He didn't know what a chosen family felt like. But sitting here, with Jamie's quiet strength beside him, he glimpsed it. I didn't think she'd come, Eli said. I thought she'd hate me forever. Maybe she's changing, Jamie offered. Or maybe she's just scared of losing you. Eli didn't know what to believe. Sarah's beliefs were a wall between them, built brick by brick over years. Could one moment in a chaotic street tear it down? He wanted to hope, but hope felt dangerous. They stayed in the alley until the sirens faded completely. Jamie pulled out his phone, checking X for updates. Looks like the protest is calming down, he said. Cops are pulling back. You want to head back out there? Eli shook his head. I need to find my mom. The words surprised him, but they felt right. He needed answers. Why had she followed him? Why had she protected him? Jamie nodded, standing and offering a hand. I'll come with you. Strength in numbers. Right. Sarah was still in the street when they found her, sitting on a curb, her face buried in her hands. The crowd had thinned, leaving behind scattered signs and crumpled flags. Eli approached slowly, Jamie a step behind. Mom, he said, his voice tentative. Sarah looked up, her eyes red-rimmed but sharp. Eli, she breathed, standing quickly. She hesitated, then pulled him into a hug, fierce and unexpected. Eli stiffened, unaccustomed to her touch, but something in him softened. He hugged her back, just for a moment. I'm sorry, she whispered, pulling away. I didn't know. I didn't understand. Eli's throat tightened. Understand what? Sarah glanced at Jamie, then back at Eli. You. This. She gestured vaguely at the remnants of the parade. I thought it was wrong. I thought I could fix you. But seeing you out there, so, alive, I realized I was the one who was wrong. Her words hit like a punch. Eli wanted to believe her, but years of her judgment loomed large. You've said awful things, Mom. For years. You can't just take that back. I know, she said, her voice breaking. I know I hurt you. I was scared, Eli. Scared of what I didn't understand, of what Pastor John said, of what people would think. But when I saw that officer coming for you, she shook her head, tears spilling. None of that mattered. You're my son. Eli's eyes burned. He wanted to scream, to demand why it took a riot for her to see him. But he also saw the cracks in her trembling hands, her raw honesty. She was trying. Was that enough? Jamie stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Mrs. Carter, Eli's been through a lot. Maybe give him some time. Sarah nodded, wiping her eyes. I will. I want to do better. Eli didn't know what to say. He felt Jamie's hand on his shoulder, a quiet reminder that he wasn't alone. Let's go home, Eli said finally, not sure if he meant with Sarah or just away from here. The bus ride back to their suburb was silent. Sarah sat beside Eli, staring out the window, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Eli kept his eyes on his phone, scrolling through X posts about the parade. Some celebrated the joy, others raged about the police response. A photo caught his eye, a blurry shot of him and Sarah, her arm shielding him from the officer. The caption read, "A mother's love in the face of hate." Eli's chest tightened. He didn't show Sarah. At home, the house felt smaller, the air heavy with unspoken words. Sarah made tea, her movements mechanical. Eli sat at the kitchen table, the same table where she'd screamed at him weeks ago. Why did you follow me? he asked finally. Sarah set the kettle down, her shoulders slumping. I was worried. After that fight, I checked your phone again. Saw the Pride event in your search history. I thought I could stop you, bring you home. But then I saw you there, with that boy, and you looked so happy. I didn't know you could look like that. Eli's jaw clenched. You didn't want me to be happy. You wanted me to be someone else. Sarah flinched. I was wrong, she said softly. I don't know everything. Eli, I don't know how to do this. But I want to try. He stared at her, searching for the lie, the catch. But all he saw was his mother flawed, human, and, for the first time, reaching out. Okay, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. But it's not going to be easy. I know, she said. I'll listen. I'll learn. That night, Eli lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. He thought of Jamie's smile, of the flag in his hand, of his mother's tears. The world felt bigger now, scarier but also brighter. He didn't know what came next, but for the first time, he felt like he could face it. The next morning, sunlight filtered through Eli's bedroom window, casting soft stripes across his bed. He woke to the smell of coffee and the faint clink of dishes downstairs. For a moment, he wondered if yesterday had been a dream. The parade, the police, his mother's impossible stand. But the torn rainbow flag on his desk was real, its frayed edges a reminder of the chaos and the shift that followed. Downstairs, Sarah was at the stove, scrambling eggs. She looked up as Eli entered, her smile tentative. Morning, she said, her voice softer than usual. Hungry? Eli nodded, sitting at the table. The normalcy felt strange, like a borrowed jacket that didn't quite fit. They ate in silence, the weight of yesterday hanging between them. Finally, Sarah spoke. I called Pastor John this morning, she said, her eyes fixed on her plate. Told him I won't be at church for a while. Eli's fork froze midair. What? I need time to think, she said. About a lot of things. What I've been taught, what I've believed, it's not all right. Eli. He stared at her, unsure whether to trust this. Sarah had built her life around that church, its rules, its community. Walking away, even temporarily, was seismic. What did he say? Eli asked. Sarah's lips twitched, a bitter edge to her smile. He said I was straying from God's path, that I needed to pray for guidance. She shook her head. I told him I was praying for my son, and that's enough for now. Eli didn't know what to feel. Part of him wanted to hug her. Part of him wanted to scream that it was too late. Instead, he said, Thanks, Mom. It was small, but it was something. After breakfast, Eli texted Jamie. You free today? Need to talk. Jamie's reply was instant. Meet me at the park. 1 p.m. Eli's heart lifted. Jamie had been a lifeline yesterday, and Eli needed that steadiness now. The park was a short walk from home, a quiet place with sprawling oaks and a pond where kids fed ducks. Jamie was already there, sitting on a bench, his hoodie pulled up against the autumn chill. He grinned when he saw Eli, but his eyes were searching. You look like you didn't sleep, he said. Didn't, Eli admitted, sitting beside him. Too much in my head. Jamie nodded, tossing a pebble into the pond. Your mom's something else. Never seen someone go from zero to hero like that. Eli laughed, but it was hollow. She's trying. I just don't know if I can trust it. She spent my whole life telling me I'm wrong for who I am. Jamie's expression softened. Change is messy. My aunt was like that, super religious. Thought I was going to hell. Took her 2 years. But she came around. Now she bakes me rainbow cupcakes every Pride. Eli smiled at the image. Sounds nice. I don't know how to talk to her now. It's like she's a stranger. Give it time, Jamie said. And give yourself time, too. You don't have to forgive her right away. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the ducks glide across the water. Eli's phone buzzed a notification from X. A new post from at Pride Youth NY. It was a video from the parade, showing Sarah shielding him, her face fierce and tearful. The caption read, "This is what love looks like." Eli's throat tightened. He showed Jamie, who whistled low. That's viral material, Jamie said. You're famous now? Eli groaned, but a small part of him felt proud. Not of the attention, but of his mom. For once, she'd been on his side. Back home, Sarah was trying. She'd pulled out an old laptop and was reading articles about LGBTQ rights. Her brow furrowed in concentration. Eli watched from the doorway, unnoticed. She clicked on a link about conversion therapy, her face paling as she read. When she saw Eli, she closed the laptop quickly, like a kid caught sneaking cookies. You don't have to hide it, Eli said, stepping into the room. Sarah's cheeks flushed. I'm just trying to understand. There's so much I didn't know. Eli sat across from her, his hands fidgeting. Like what? Like how hard it's been for you, she said quietly. I read about kids who get kicked out. Hurt. Worse. I didn't know people could be so cruel. I didn't know I was being cruel. Eli's chest ached. You didn't kick me out. That's something. It's not enough, Sarah said, her voice firm. I want to be better, Eli. For you. He nodded, unsure what to say. The gap between them was still there, but it was narrowing, inch by painful inch. Can we just talk? He asked. Like, really talk. No yelling. No Bible quotes. Just us. Sarah's eyes softened. I'd like that. They started small movies. School. The weather. But as the conversation stretched, Eli found himself opening up. He told her about Jamie, about the thrill of the parade, about the fear of being himself. Sarah listened, really listened, her face a mix of guilt and wonder. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. That night, Eli lay awake, thinking of Jamie's words, change is messy. He didn't know if Sarah's change would stick, but for the first time, he felt like they were on the same side. It was fragile, but it was real. Weeks passed, and the house felt different. The Bible still sat on the kitchen counter, but it was buried under library books. Sarah had checked out titles like Raising LGBTQ Allies and The Gay Revolution. Eli caught her reading late at night, her glasses slipping down her nose, a notepad filled with scribbled questions. She didn't push him to talk, but she left the door open, literally and figuratively. At school, Eli's life was shifting too. The viral photo from the parade had spread, and whispers followed him in the hallways. Some kids sneered. Others offered shy smiles. A girl from his English class, Mia, slipped him a note. You're brave. I'm bi. Let's talk sometime. Eli tucked it into his pocket, his heart lighter. He wasn't alone. He and Jamie grew closer, texting daily, meeting at the park when they could. Jamie was a senior at a different school, already out and unapologetic. He told Eli stories of his chosen family friends who'd taken him in after his dad's rejection. You'll find yours, Jamie promised. Maybe you already have. Eli wasn't sure. He liked Jamie maybe more than liked him, but the idea of a relationship felt huge. Scary. He was still figuring out who he was without his mother's shadow looming over him. One afternoon, Sarah surprised him. "I found a group," she said, setting down her coffee mug. "Parents of LGBTQ kids. They meet in Albany. I'm going this weekend. Want to come?" Eli blinked, caught off guard. "You're serious?" "Dead serious," she said, a spark of her old stubbornness in her eyes. "I want to get this right." He hesitated, then nodded. "Okay. But I'm bringing Jamie." Sarah's smile faltered, just for a second, before she nodded. "Fair enough." The meeting was in a community center, a low brick building with rainbow stickers on the windows. Eli sat between Sarah and Jamie, his knee bouncing nervously. The room was filled with parents, some teary, some proud, all grappling with their kids' identities. A woman named Linda, whose trans daughter was away at college, led the group. She spoke about love, about mistakes, about learning to listen. Sarah was quiet at first, her hands clasped tightly. Then, during a sharing session, she stood. "I'm Sarah," she said, her voice steady but raw. "My son, Eli, is gay. I didn't handle it well. For years, I thought I could change him, that I was protecting him. I was wrong. I hurt him, and I'm here to learn how to fix that." Eli's breath caught. The room was silent, all eyes on Sarah. Linda nodded encouragingly. "That's a brave start, Sarah. It's not easy to face our mistakes." Sarah sat, her hands trembling. Eli reached over, squeezing her hand. She squeezed back, and for the first time in years, he felt like her son again. Jamie leaned over, whispering, "Told you. She's trying." On the drive home, Sarah was quiet, but her silence felt different, not heavy, but thoughtful. "I liked Linda," she said finally. "She said something about love being a choice you make every day. I think I get that now." Eli didn't respond, but he felt a warmth spreading in his chest. He glanced at Jamie in the back seat, who gave him a small, knowing smile. At school, things weren't as smooth. A group of boys led by a senior named Kyle had seen the viral photo and decided Eli was an easy target. They cornered him in the locker room after gym, their voices low and mocking. "So, your mom's a hero now," Kyle sneered. "Doesn't change what you are." Eli's fists clenched, but he kept his voice steady. "What I am is none of your business." Kyle shoved him, hard. Eli stumbled, catching himself against a locker. Before he could react, a voice cut through. "Back off, Kyle." It was Mia, the girl from English, standing in the doorway with her arms crossed. "Unless you want the whole school to know you're scared of a junior." The boys laughed, but it was nervous. Kyle muttered something and left, his friends trailing behind. Mia helped Eli up, her expression fierce. "You okay?" "Yeah," Eli said, his heart still racing. "Thanks." "Anytime," she said. "We've got your back." That night, Eli told Sarah about the incident, leaving out the worst details. She listened, her face tightening. "I want to talk to the principal," she said. "Mom." "No," Eli said quickly. "It'll make it worse." She frowned but nodded. "Okay. But if it happens again, I'm stepping in." Eli smiled faintly. "Deal." As he lay in bed, he thought about Mia's words, "We've got your back." For so long, he'd felt alone. Now, with Jamie, Mia, and even Sarah, he was starting to believe he didn't have to be. Winter came early to upstate New York, blanketing the town in snow. Eli's life settled into a new rhythm. He and Jamie were inseparable now, their friendship teetering on the edge of something more. At school, Mia became a fierce ally, her quick wit shutting down bullies before they could gain traction. Sarah kept attending the parent group, coming home with stories of other families, their struggles and triumphs. She even started a small book club with some of the parents, discussing titles Eli had never imagined her touching. But the past wasn't gone. One Sunday, Eli found Sarah in the living room, staring at an old photo of them at a church picnic when he was 10. "I used to think I had it all figured out," she said, her voice distant. "God, family, right and wrong. It was so simple." Eli sat beside her, unsure what to say. "Do you miss it?" "Sometimes," she admitted. "But I don't miss who I was. I was so closed off. I didn't see you, Eli." "Not really." He swallowed hard. "I didn't make it easy. I hid a lot." "You shouldn't have had to," she said, her eyes meeting his. "I made you feel like you had to hide. That's on me." The conversation lingered with Eli, a mix of healing and ache. He wanted to trust this new Sarah, but the old one still lingered in his memories, her voice sharp with judgment. At school, the tension with Kyle escalated. He'd backed off after Mia's intervention, but his glares followed Eli in the halls. One day, during lunch, Kyle and his friends dumped a tray of food on Eli's table, laughing as ketchup splattered his jacket. "Freak," Kyle muttered, loud enough for the cafeteria to hear. Eli's face burned, but before he could respond, Jamie appeared, his eyes blazing. "Say it again," Jamie said, stepping close to Kyle. The cafeteria went quiet, all eyes on them. Kyle smirked, but didn't repeat it. He walked away, his friends following. Jamie sat beside Eli, his jaw tight. "You don't have to fight my battles," Eli said, half grateful, half embarrassed. "I'm not," Jamie said. "I'm just here." "Okay." Eli nodded, his heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with Kyle. Later, as they walked home through the snow, Jamie stopped under a streetlight, his breath visible in the cold. "Eli, I like you," he said, his voice steady but nervous. Like you. I don't know if you're ready for that, but I needed to say it." Eli's stomach flipped. He'd felt it too, the pull between them. The way Jamie's smile made his chest ache. But the words stuck in his throat. I think I like you too," he managed. "But I'm scared." Jamie's smile was soft, understanding. "Me too. We can be scared together." They stood there, snow falling around them, and Eli felt something nawa spark of possibility, fragile but bright. Sarah noticed the change in Eli. He was lighter, laughing more, his phone buzzing with texts from Jamie. One night, she caught him smiling at a message and raised an eyebrow. "That boy's got you glowing," she teased. Eli blushed. He gets me." Sarah nodded, her expression softening. "I'm glad. You deserve that." Her words caught Eli off guard. He wasn't used to the assure support, her warmth. But he was starting to believe it was real. The next parent group meeting was different. Sarah brought Eli and Jamie, introducing them to the others with a pride that made Eli's chest tighten. One parent, a burly man named Tom, clapped Eli on the shoulder. "Your mom's a force," he said. "She's been asking the toughest questions in group." Eli glanced at Sarah, who shrugged, a faint smile on her lips. "I'm learning," she said. That night, as they drove home, Eli felt a shift. The car was warm, the radio playing softly, Jamie's hand resting lightly on his in the back seat. Sarah caught their reflection in the rearview mirror and smiled. For the first time, Eli felt like they were a family not perfect, but trying. But trouble was brewing. At school, Kyle's taunts grew bolder, fueled by rumors about Eli and Jamie. One afternoon, Eli found a note in his locker. "Fags don't belong here." His hands shook as he crumpled it. But he didn't tell Jamie or Sarah. He didn't want to burden them. Not when things were finally starting to feel right. /Xi artifact. Xi artifact 30 equals 7 and 7 to artifact under sturgeon 3 equals 304F59991B48C49318843 title equals. His _ mom _ was _ deeply _ homophobic _ part 6. MD content type equals text /markdown. The note wasn't the last. Over the next week, Eli found more slipped into his locker, tucked into his textbooks. The words were vicious, cutting deeper each time. He hid them, shoving them into a drawer in his room, but they haunted him. At night, he'd lie awake, the old fears creeping back. What if Sarah's change was temporary? What if the world would never let him be himself? Jamie noticed the shift in Eli's mood. They were at the park again, tossing stones into the pond, when Jamie grabbed his hand. "Talk to me," he said. "You're shutting down." Eli hesitated, then pulled out one of the notes, its edges worn from being handled. Jamie's face darkened as he read it. "Who's doing this?" he demanded. "I think it's Kyle," Eli said quietly. "But I don't know for sure." "We need to tell someone," Jamie said. "Your mom, the principal, someone." Eli shook his head. "It'll just make it worse. I can handle it." Jamie's eyes softened, but his voice was firm. "You don't have to handle it alone." That night, Eli told Sarah. He expected her to march to the school, to make a scene, but instead, she listened, her face tight with anger and guilt. "I'm so sorry, Eli," she said. "This is because of me, isn't it? Because I made you feel like you had to hide." "No," Eli said, surprised by his own conviction. "This is just people, not you." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. "We'll figure this out together." "Okay." The school took the note seriously, launching an investigation. Kyle denied everything, but the principal suspended him for a week based on witness accounts from the cafeteria incident. The note stopped, but the tension lingered. Eli felt eyes on him everywhere in the halls, at lunch, even in class. Mia stuck close, her presence a shield, but Eli couldn't shake the feeling that he was still a target. Jamie was his anchor. They spent more time together, stealing moments in the park or at the local diner, talking about everything and nothing. One evening, as they shared a milkshake, Jamie leaned across the table and kissed Eli. It was quick, soft, but it set Eli's heart racing. "Was that okay?" Jamie asked, his voice low. Eli grinned, his cheeks warm. "More than okay." Sarah noticed the change in Eli's mood, too. She didn't pry, but she started leaving the door open when Jamie came over, her way of showing trust. One night, she invited Jamie for dinner, cooking her famous lasagna. The meal was awkward at first, Sarah trying too hard to be welcoming, Jamie politely answering her questions, but by the end, they were laughing over a story about Eli's disastrous attempt at baking cookies. After Jamie left, Sarah turned to Eli. "He's good for you," she said simply. Eli nodded, his throat tight. "Yeah, he is." The parent group meetings became a regular part of their lives. Sarah was a vocal participant now, sharing her story, asking questions, challenging old beliefs. One evening, Linda invited a guest speaker, a gay man in his 30s who'd grown up in a conservative town. His story mirrored Eli's in so many ways: the fear, the hiding, the slow journey to self-acceptance. Sarah listened, her eyes glistening, and afterward, she hugged Eli tightly. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered, "for being you." Eli hugged her back, the words sinking deep. He wasn't used to this pride, this unconditional love, but he was starting to believe it was real. At school, things were calmer but not perfect. Kyle was back, his attitude subdued but his glares still sharp. Eli ignored him, focusing on his friends, his grades, and Jamie. He joined the school's GSA, a small group of queer kids and allies, and found a community he hadn't known he needed. Mia was there, along with a few others who'd reached out after the viral photo. They planned a pride event for spring, a small one, but theirs. Eli felt like he was building something alive where he could be himself. But the fear lingered, a quiet whisper that things could fall apart. He didn't know how to silence it, but with Jamie's hand in his and Sarah's support at home, he felt stronger than ever. Spring brought change to the town buds on the trees, longer days, and a tentative hope in Eli's heart. The GSA's Pride event was set for May, a small festival in the school courtyard with music, art, and a speech from Linda. Eli was nervous but excited, helping design posters and plan activities. Jamie was there every step, his enthusiasm infectious. Sarah got involved, too. She offered to bake for the event, spending hours perfecting rainbow cupcakes with Mia's help. Eli watched them in the kitchen one afternoon, laughing over spilled frosting, and felt a warmth he hadn't known was possible. His mom was becoming someone new, not just for him, but for herself. But not everyone was on board. A group of parents, led by Pastor John, started a petition to cancel the event, calling it inappropriate for a school. The news spread on X, with heated threads on both sides. Eli felt the old fear creeping back, but Sarah was undeterred. She went to the school board meeting, her voice steady as she spoke in favor of the event. "This is about our kids feeling safe," she said. "My son deserves that. They all do." The board voted to keep the event, a narrow victory. Sarah came home exhausted but triumphant. Eli hugged her, words failing him. "You didn't have to do that," he said finally. "Yes, I did," she replied. "I'm done letting fear win." The night before the Pride event, Eli and Jamie sat on Eli's roof, a blanket wrapped around them. The stars were bright, the air cool. "You ever think about the future?" Jamie asked, his head resting on Eli's shoulder. "All the time," Eli said. I don't know. To be happy. To not have to fight for it." Jamie turned to him, his eyes serious. "You won't always have to fight. Not alone. Anyway." Eli kissed him, slow and deliberate, his heart full. "I'm glad you're here," he said. "Me too," Jamie replied, his smile soft. The Pride event was a success. The courtyard was filled with students, teachers, and parents, rainbow flags waving in the breeze. Sarah's cupcakes were a hit, and Linda's speech brought tears to Eli's eyes. She spoke about community, about love, about the courage to change. Eli looked at Sarah, who was clapping with the crowd, and felt a pride that went both ways. But the day wasn't without tension. Kyle and a few others stood at the edge of the courtyard, watching with smirks. Eli ignored them, focusing on the joy around him. Mia dragged him into a dance circle, and Jamie joined, their laughter drowning out the negativity. As the event wound down, Eli noticed Sarah talking to Pastor John near the school entrance. He tensed, ready to intervene, but Sarah's posture was calm, resolute. Later, she told him what happened. He tried to convince me to come back to church, she said. I told him I found my own faith, one that includes you. Eli's eyes burned. You're amazing, Mom. She smiled, brushing his hair back. I'm learning. That night, Eli posted on X a photo of the Pride event with the caption, "Today, I felt free. Thanks to my mom, my friends, and love." The responses poured in support. Heart emojis. Stories from others like him. Jamie commented, "Proud of you. Always." Sarah, who'd finally joined X, liked the post, adding a simple heart. Eli lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the weight of the past years settling around him. He'd been so afraid of Sarah, of the world, of himself. But now, with Jamie's love, Sarah's support, and a community that had his back, he felt ready to face whatever came next. The school year ended with a quiet victory. Eli passed his finals, his grades stronger than ever. He and Jamie made plans for the summer road trips, late-night talks, maybe even a visit to a bigger Pride event in New York City. Sarah was saving up, determined to join them, her transformation a steady flame. But the past wasn't done with them. One evening, Eli found a letter in the mailbox. No return address. Inside was a single page, typed and signed, "You and your mom think you've won, but you're still an abomination." Eli's hands shook as he read it, the old fear surging back. He showed Sarah, expecting her to panic. Instead, she called the police, her voice calm but firm. "We're not hiding anymore," she said after hanging up. "Whoever this is, they don't get to scare us." The police couldn't trace the letter, but the incident galvanized Sarah. She started a local support group for parents of LGBTQ kids, meeting in the community center where she'd first found her footing. Eli helped her set up, designing flyers and posting about it on X. The first meeting drew a small crowd, but it grew, week by week, as parents found the courage to show up. Jamie was there, too, his presence a constant comfort. Their relationship deepened, no longer just a spark, but a steady glow. They talked about college, about moving to a city where they could be themselves without fear. Eli wasn't sure what he wanted yet, but with Jamie beside him, the future felt possible. One summer evening, Eli and Sarah sat on the porch, watching fireflies dance in the yard. The air was warm, the world quiet. "I'm proud of you, Eli," Sarah said, her voice soft but sure. "Not just for being you, but for teaching me how to be better." Eli's throat tightened. "You taught me, too," he said, "how to keep going, even when it's hard." Sarah reached for his hand, and they sat in silence, the weight of their journey settling into something like peace. The letter, the notes, the hate, they were still out there, but they didn't define Eli anymore. He had Sarah, Jamie, Mia, the GSA, a community that held him up. He had himself, finally unashamed. As the stars came out, Eli thought of the Pride parade, of Sarah's tears, of the flag he'd clutched so tightly. He thought of the photo that had gone viral, the caption that had spread, "A mother's love in the face of hate." It wasn't just a moment. It was a promise one Sarah was keeping, one Eli was learning to trust. He pulled out his phone, opening X. He typed a new post. "A year ago, I was scared to be me. Now, I'm not alone. Love wins. Every day." He tagged Sarah, Jamie, and the GSA, then hit post. The responses came quickly, a flood of support from strangers and friends alike. Eli leaned back, his mom's hand still in his, and smiled. The world wasn't perfect, but it was his. And he was ready to live in it.